to another episode of the Fanzone podcast. Your home for all things Bolton Wanderers, up the Trotters, the Northwest's #1 podcast.
Good evening, ladies and gents. Welcome back to another episode of the preview show brought to you by us here at the Fanzone podcast and, of course, kindly sponsored by the incredible Love in My Socials. Before we get into this evening's episode, if you want to find out about any of our sponsors, then if you head over to www.thefanzonepod.co.uk, you can do exactly that. But it is make or break time. Things are tightly contested for those playoff contention spots. However, it is also make or break and tightly contested at the top end of the table. This is going to be an interesting game, I think. This is a very big game of football for both teams. Huge, huge games. 3 points, vitally important, even more so at this stage of the season. But given what is at stake here, this is hotting up. And of course, I am talking about tomorrow's game against Wycombe Wanderers. And to talk about this evening's David Jones, hey fever on toast, anyone? Yep, it is that season. I am struggling. Antihistamines aren't doing what they should be doing, but we'll try and make through this evening's episode without scratching my eyes out or sniffing too much down the microphone. But to talk about this upcoming fixture, which is huge, as I've said, is James from the Wycombe Way podcast, somewhat of a regular feature on the preview show. But thanks for joining us this evening, James. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, mate. Yeah, really looking forward to talking all things Bolton, all things Wycombe, and the game tomorrow. It's going to be a good one, I'm sure.
It should be, yeah. It's an important game, and whilst we look at how both teams have got there, it's your season so far. "42 games played for most of the teams in the division then currently, apart from Birmingham, but we don't need to talk about them. They're just so far out of sight. There's not much point. 42 games played. Only 3 points separate Bolton Wanderers from Reading, and a playoff spot at that. But at the top end of the table, not too far away from us, but far enough that it's a distant memory. We were talking about automatic promotion. 1 point separating Wycombe and Wrexham. This is an interesting fixture. There is a lot at stake here, and notoriously, high pressure environments aren't always Bolton Wanderers' hot spot, shall we say? But things have turned a corner slightly for Wycombe recently. You went through a bit of a rough patch, which saw you drop out of those automatic spots. But your season so far, then, let's have a talk about it. Are you sort of where you expected to be? Would you say you've overachieved this season? Are you surprised? And how are you where you are, basically?
So I think a lot of people at the start of the season, your bookies, your League One EFL experts probably had us about 8th to 12th, and I saw some that had us lower. Because we're not notoriously one of the division's big clubs, like Bolton, like Barnsley, like Charlton. So, it was maybe not quite an expectation to be right in and around the top. I had us, I think, to finish 8th, hoping to maybe sneak into the playoffs on the last day, something like that. So to be in third, 1 point off the automatics with 4 to go is absolutely unbelievable. It's been an amazing season. I think if you'd have watched us last year, at the back end of last year, we went something like 12 unbeaten at the end of last year. So we knew we were kind of building something. Some astute signings over the summer, people like Cameron Humphreys, our attacking midfielder, who I think has got about 13 goal contributions this year. People like that, not quite, the big names that were being signed right at the top of the league, but we knew it was going to be a really good year. But yeah, being third, a point off last week's results went for us in a way with us winning and Wrexham dropping points. So fingers crossed, with 4 to go, we can just about get over that line and achieve what will be our first ever automatic promotion into the Championship and only our second ever time in the Championship in our history.
Speaking of individuals there, obviously you mentioned that astute signing in Humphreys, but another individual that's been absolutely phenomenal this season, Richard Kone. I was surprised, very, very surprised, I must say, when he signed the new deal and you managed to keep hold of him, because there was a lot of rumours floating around in January that he was going to go elsewhere, and I think probably had earned himself a move away in what has been an outstanding season for him. Still very, very young as well. But how important has he been to this sort of this season?
Look, he's been huge. It's been unbelievable, for such a young lad, who's also only came from step 9 of the pyramid, like 18 months ago from Athletic Newham, to slot into this level and already be on 18 league goals this season. It's just absolutely unbelievable. He, in some matches, has single-handedly carried us, taking those points. And, he's on 18 league goals, despite hitting a little bit of a drought recently. He's been less effective. Teams have started to, double up on him, get really tight, start to foul him all the time. And despite all of that, he's still on 18 goals and hopefully in the race for the Golden Boot. Although I know, obviously, Kelman at Leyton Orient, I think, has just taken that at the moment. But yeah, he's been absolutely unbelievable. It's not really been a one-man team. I know he scored a lot of the goals, but, his strike partner, Dan Udo, who he signed from Shrewsbury in the summer as well, already on 8 league goals this year, kind of playing second fiddle to him, but, really doing an amazing job. And then, obviously, all the guys in the midfield providing him the chances, like Aaron Morley. And if we'd have kept him for the whole season, I think maybe we might be up automatically already. But yeah, obviously won't be featuring this weekend, and we give him our best wishes.
No, unfortunately, we'll touch on team news a little later on. But yeah, Aaron Morley will be a huge miss. And one of the comments that I was going to actually touch on and leads us nicely into was from Dave Nash, and said, "Was there ever anything in the Morley on a proper transfer?" I mean, we had conversations on the podcast where it looked pretty obvious that he wanted to go, especially with Everett at the helm here. I don't think it was a perfect relationship by any stretch of the imagination, but he came on loan to you and sort of reignited that spark that we as Bolton fans saw in him for quite a while at Bolton, and I think it was a lack of game time that sort of dimmed that spark. But was there anything there?
I mean, obviously, I'm not going to talk too much about all the inside stuff, because obviously that stays inside for a reason. I think there was a genuine desire for him to come. Obviously, we wanted him to stay. He was absolutely unbelievable for the first half of the season, and really just sitting into that midfield, controlling the play from deep. He really was untouchable, and probably if he hadn't gone back in January, probably would have been my player of the season if he'd have carried on at the rate he was going. And obviously has come back to Bolton and also done incredibly well, as we expected him to. And I do think, yeah, Ian Everett leaving probably aided his decision to stay a little bit. Having a manager like Schumacher, really experienced at this level, one of the top managers who has believed him in a little more. And yeah, kind of gutted. Well, obviously it's good for us that he's not playing, because he probably would have scored the winning goal, knowing the way football works. But obviously gutted for him, because it would have been nice to see him back playing against Wycombe and probably playing very well.
Speaking of managers there, you referenced Schumacher. Obviously, both teams this season have undergone new appointments, but for vastly different reasons. Obviously, Matt Bloomfield had done an incredible job, but made way for Luton Town and was replaced by Mike Dodds. I think probably didn't have the start that he was probably hoping for. Almost feels a little bit inevitable when you've got a manager that's done so well. Any replacement's going to have to really ignite something within that squad to keep them at the levels they were at. But you're still very much in the race. So talk to us about his appointment.
Definitely. So I think Mike Dodds has had a very difficult role to fill in a way. He succeeded Matt Bloomfield, who had been at the club for 22 years as a player and a manager. Our club record appearance maker. So as a club legend, everyone wanted him to succeed. He was doing amazingly well, had us in the top 2. Even, leading the league at some point over Birmingham, which was fantastic, in the early parts of the season. And Bloomfield himself succeeded Gareth Ainsworth, who was there for 10 years himself, and I'm sure, has, masterminded a lot of wins against the big sides in this division. So, having to replace 2 club legends is so difficult. And I feel like he's had to kind of win the fans over, which is obviously really tough for him coming straight into a promotion season. Loads of expectation. He's just got to basically get on with it and get us up. It's kind of the expectation, after... we spent a lot of money in January by our standards, a couple of £1 million on players. The expectation is for us to go up automatically. But he's done incredibly well. I like him. He speaks well. And, even though we're not as free-flowing as we were, in his 14 matches so far, we've only conceded 7 goals. So we've been so resolute at the other end. And actually 3 of them were penalties. So 4 open play goals in 14 games, And, if you can't win the game when you're in a title race, just don't lose it. I think that's the thing. And he's made us really hard to beat. So we're obviously not scoring loads, but we're not letting stuff in. So we are keeping the points ticking along. And, if he gets automatically promoted, he'll go down as one of our in club history for achieving our best ever League One finish.
Not scoring lots of goals, but not letting many in. I wish that was a similar story for us, but unfortunately, we don't seem to be capable of doing either of those things. Obviously, Barnsley was a huge disappointment shipping 4 in any match, but let alone a team that has struggled at home so much and was really struggling in recent weeks as well. Obviously, their new manager appointment hasn't really been lived up to the expectations either. But
I think it was the nature of those goals as well that you conceded, watching them back. That free kick set piece routine that was left a man unmarked in the box, and Farino, who obviously was amazing for us at Wycombe, getting turned inside out for the first goal as well. And then you're right back as well on the third goal. So it was all just, defensive mistakes. It was really tough because looking at, obviously I didn't watch the game, but looking at the numbers, you probably deserve to at least get something from the game. But obviously when you concede 4 goals like that, you probably not got much of a chance.
Nope, not much of a chance at all. And that is a problem that's sort of underpinned much of Wanderers' season so far. And when you're coming up against a team that have got a striker that's got 18 in the league so far, it's a little bit of a cause for concern, especially when behind him is such a creative player. So without leaning too much into a prediction, but what are you expecting from this game?
Well, I'm expecting us to be incredibly hard to beat. So we're setting up in a back 5 at the moment. So we're going to, be incredibly hard to beat. We'll be kind of pass. We do try and build from deep, but we're not afraid to go direct into Kone and Udo as well. And I'm expecting a really tough test. We haven't got the best record in this fixture of late. I think 1 win in our last 5 against Bolton. And obviously when Bolton came to Adams Park in December, you were on an awful run of form, 2 heavy defeats. And we rocked up expecting, well, we might win this game. And I believe Bolton were the first team that kept us out in the league all season. We didn't score a goal, even though we probably deserved to get something more from the game. And Bolton were resolute and defensively incredibly sound. And I remember walking away feeling really gutted. But then actually I had to remember, Bolton should be right up at the top of this division. It's one of the biggest clubs in this division. And a point against Bolton is never bad. But I kind of want more than a point this weekend. I feel like we need to start just keep getting 3 points, and hopefully Wrexham will slip up somewhere because obviously it's not in our hands anymore.
Nope, both teams in desperate need of those 3 points. Like I said, so much at stake in this game. But I think that rounds off in terms of season so far, and we'll touch on some team news, which for Bolton isn't too cracking.
Yeah.
Well, from out of nowhere, it feels like our squad has taken an absolute whacking. Barnsley, not only was the performance horrific, but the state of our squad, but come the end of that game was also horrific, obviously. 2-2 making way and leaving us with 10 men. Morley coming off injured. Sheehan also picking up a knock. Alex Murphy also hobbling about. Didn't look too promising. Aaron Morley will miss the rest of the season with ankle ligament damage, and as you said before, we send him our best wishes for him to come back and show the character that he has, to just get his head down and crack on. Even under Everett, he looked really good, but even more so impressive under Schumacher. Toll and Sean still going to be sidelined. Mendes Gomez pulled out of training with an injury. So yeah, we're low on numbers, very, very low on numbers. I think Murphy is likely to feature. I think he's trained with Sheehan this week, so that's positive. But we're not sure on the extent of any of the injuries really, apart from Morley's. So the lineup is anyone's guess really, which is frustrating, especially at this stage of the season. It's not something that is ideal, but we've been in this boat before, so we'll hope that whatever squad goes out is enough to pick up a result. But what's it looking like over in Wycombe? Please tell me that everyone's injured and you've got no one who can play.
Well, I was going to say, I was doing my research earlier today on your squad and was having a look, and I saw the injury update, and obviously I saw that Morley had come off at the weekend because that made its way around Wycombe circles, obviously, as he'd played for us. And I looked at the fact, obviously, he'd finished the game with 10 men. Osa Tutu probably not likely to feature. Sean not back. Sheehan off. Obviously, Forrester, Toll won't be featuring either. And I looked at it, I was like, this is mad. Unfortunately, I don't have much good news for you guys because we're pretty much at a clean bill of health, really. At the moment, the team is kind of picking itself. The only actual positive for us is we hopefully will have Kieran Sadlier back, who obviously, has, I believe, played for Bolton.
Yeah,
was fantastic for us last year. Started the season amazingly, was causing defenses all sorts of problems. Even Birmingham, he was probably the man of the match in that game, and then unfortunately got a serious injury and hasn't actually featured since. So hoping that he's back on the bench for this game. He's been out on the grass training for the last couple of weeks or so, and hoping also to welcome back Joe Lowe to the starting lineup, our monster centre half, who probably is my player of the season despite missing a fair few games. He was ill and then has been kind of on the bench. It's very difficult to get into the team when it's a winning team, but I'd probably expect to see him back in the side. So unfortunately, probably not the kind of injuries you were hoping for, but hopefully means we have a really strong squad to pick from, and a lot of people will probably be very disappointed, such as the strength of our squad. 30 people making league appearances this season at least. It's been a really big squad and a proper squad effort.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned there that it's difficult to change a winning team, and that level of consistency is something that I wanted to ask you about, because I think it's something that Wanderers have definitely missed this season. It's been hampered by injuries, but there's been so much chopping and changing, and even since Schumacher's come in, I don't think he's found quite his best 11 just yet. And a lot of that has been down to injuries. He's not been blessed with such a strong squad. Well, he has, but the strength of that squad has been diminished significantly by injuries. What has your lineup looked like over the course of the season? Have you been pretty steady? You said there you've had 30 players that have sort of chipped in as and when, but has that core of the squad remained largely the same?
Yeah, definitely. And we've kind of had a core of the squad over the years. But really, it kind of started to shift a little bit in the summer. Kind of all the players from the Ainsworth era, apart from now our captain Jack Grimmer, are now out the door. So it's now a very new look squad. We have had quite a lot of change throughout the year. So under Bloomfield, we were playing a 4-2-3-1. Likely they'll probably be playing kind of a 5-3-2 against you guys. So that's been a kind of a massive shift tactically. But under Dodds in his reign just itself, has been a massive consistency in the team. And I think you're right. That's a massive strength, and probably, a massive strength for our defence is why we've only conceded those 7 goals. Is because everything's staying pretty solid and everyone feels comfortable playing with each other. So just to talk you through a team, we'll probably have Will Norris in goal. He's been the number 1 since he joined in January. He was one of a number of January signings, but one of the only ones that's actually featured. A lot of them are kind of long-term signings. We signed 2 lads randomly from Denmark for Wycombe. We never really go out of England, but neither of them have really featured. They're kind of more next season long-term signings. Our back 3 is, I'm going to be biased, probably the best back 3 in the league, I would say. I feel I'm pretty balanced about kind of where our squad sits, but our defence is really the strong point in that team. So Sonny Bradley, incredibly experienced centre half at this level, on loan from Derby. Caleb Taylor, who's on loan from West Brom in the Championship, and then with him Joe Lowe is the hope he'll probably return back in. It means Jack Grimmer, our club captain, will go to right wing back, replacing Fred Onyendinma, I would think. And Luke Leahy, also very experienced. We've kind of gone for that experience recently. He'll be on the left wing back. And then kind of a really creative 3 in the middle, Josh Scowen, Xavier Simons from Hull City. And then, as I said, Cameron Humphreys, our star creative attacking midfielder, on loan from Ipswich, dubbed the Suffolk Messi. And you can kind of see why. He's been absolutely fantastic. Picks out passes you don't even see on the pitch. He just does it and you go, oh, wow, the guy's over there. It's absolutely unbelievable. And then hopefully the front 2 will be Richard Kone and Dan Udo. And, for how amazing both players are, they haven't actually featured much together this year because Kone was out injured. Then Udo was out injured for about a month. He's only just come back. So hopefully that kind of front 2 partnership will cause Bolton a lot of problems. That's what we hope, to pick up another 3 points. But we have struggled against the top sides in the division this year, as we saw in December. We struck a blank up against Bolton. So fingers crossed for some more goals this time.
Yeah, I mean, from where I'm sat, it could really go one of 2 ways. It feels like that defeat at Barnsley could either put a rocket up people's proverbials and cause an upset, or it could be the start of a real stinking run and end to the season. obviously hoping for the first option there. But as we head away from team news, because it's very depressing, we'll bring you some score predictions, which I'm not quite sure will be any less depressing. As always with this segment, make sure you are playing along at home. Get your comments in the live chat and we will pull some of them up on screen. Kone versus Santos makes me shiver. It makes me shiver indeed. Santos obviously only coming back from injury. I thought he was okay against Barnsley, but not great. Not really that you could expect much more from a player that's coming back from a pretty long-term niggling injury, it seems, that's hampered him for quite a while. But yes, that's not a pleasant thought, especially with the number of injuries we've got in defence. But the less said about that, the better. We've had our first score prediction, which is boldly optimistic. David has gone Wanderers to win 2-0. I'm not quite sure which Wanderers he means.
Wycombe Wanderers, maybe?
It's a safe bet. Kelly, I dread to say it, but I think we're going to lose 2-0. David Jones has gone 1-1. So some conservative in there, some less so. But James, since you're a guest, it makes sense to hand over to you first and put you under a little bit of pressure. What's your prediction?
This is the time where I put my money where my mouth is and actually have to say something and just going to stick by it. I've thought about this a little bit because obviously it really could go one of two ways. Unlike some of our previous games, Bolton has something massive to fight for. I believe only 3 points off the playoffs. And with Reading's quite easy running, need to pick up, close to maximum points. And so I think kind of going against the numbers a little bit, because this season we've lost 7 games, but they've all been to the top 8. We haven't lost to anyone below the top 8. So we've only picked up 13 from available 52 against the current top 10. So we really have struggled against the top teams and then, basically beaten all the sides below that. But to go against the numbers and just go on pure vibes and, try and manifest a great result, I'm going to go very similar to our previous games. I know Bolton have a lot of goals in their games, sometimes not at the right end at the moment, obviously. But also, I think the third top scorers in the league. So, there is the goals there if they want it. I am going to go against all the numbers and just go for a 1-0 Wycombe Wanderers win. Hopefully travel back down to Wycombe with 3 points, and hopefully Wrexham have slipped up somewhere. I can't remember who they've got tomorrow, but fingers are crossed that they will drop some points and we can go back into our top 2 spot. And if I want a goal scorer, I'm going to go for Caleb Taylor, our centre half, probably from a set piece.
Former Wanderer as well, who was on loan with us for a little while.
Was he?
He was indeed.
How did he get on?
We didn't see too much of him. He was injured for quite a while, and I think he was out of favour with Everett. But we saw quite a lot of glimpses of what could be, and obviously he's gone on to show what he's capable of now. So yeah, he was on loan for with us for a little bit, and was quite unfortunate with his injury record. The same could be said for most of our squad, to be fair. I'm not sure quite what they're doing at Lostock, but it must be intense. It's really difficult to call this one. My head is saying that we'll pick something up, but after being stood in that away end at Barnsley, it's really difficult to pull yourself around to any sense of optimism. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I think it'll be a really good game. I think it'll be a tight game, and I'm hoping that we can at least pick something up. Obviously, you want to go into every game, wanting to get 3 points. But at this point, we've got to hope that Reading slip up somewhere along the way, because at the minute we don't look too cracking. So,
do you think you'll do it? Do you think we'll get the playoffs?
In all honesty, probably not. I think, especially after that Barnsley game, it just might be a step too far. I don't think, personally, a squad that's looking at a playoff place should be going to Barnsley and losing 4-1 in any nature, especially not this close to the end of the season. And I think this game, I said it at the start of the episode, this game has the potential to decide that and almost seal our fate, it feels like. Yeah. So, on that note, You've been watching the Fanzone podcast, and this is the preview show. A huge thank you, James, for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. And thank you to David in the chat. I've just seen that Wrexham have got Bristol Rovers, which will probably be 3 points. So I think we need a 3 ourselves as well. Cheers for having me on.
Nope, you're very welcome. If you want to find out any more about the Wycombe Way, then if you head into the description of this episode, there'll be a link to their socials so you can go and have a nosy at what they do. But until the next time, you've been watching the Fanzone podcast. We'll be back on Saturday with a post-match podcast, Sunday with a preview show, Monday's at the game against Lincoln, and then Tuesday we'll have another post-match pod, so they are coming thick and fast. Indeed we are. But thank you all very much for watching. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one.